Hello, it's Anne. How are you? Topic of the day, are you making things too hard? Everybody I've mentioned this video to, I've been talking about making this video for a couple weeks. Everybody I've mentioned it to is like, oh my God, that's me, right? I can see it. It's been me too. It's been a lot of our patterns. It's sort of an epidemic in our culture. And I am here to bust that pattern so that you can have a more empowered life. So what does this look like, making it too hard? I will go first. I'll share that last week there was a day where I was on a radio show as a special guest. It was called Living in Partnership with Spirit radio show. Lots of fun. I did free readings and I was excited. I was gearing up, and I also, after that show, I had a couple of appointments where I needed to be on my computer that day, and it was a full day. And at the beginning of the day, a couple hours before the radio show was scheduled to start, I went to turn on my computer and it wouldn't turn on. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have time for this today. This is a problem. I'm gonna have to go to the Mac store, but I can't go till 6 o'clock and I need my computer today. And I went on that hamster wheel, which you may find familiar. And then I caught myself and I was like, Anne, doesn't have to be a problem. Call Mac tech support, see what they can do. Duh. I picked up the phone and and then the story could have been, oh my God, I'll be on hold, they won't pick up in time, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they picked up within 5 minutes, within 15 minutes, they gave me something to do, turned my computer on, the day was great. I had plenty of time to get ready. I just had to stop. I had to catch myself and shift the pattern. So besides me, there's been a lot of women and men too, a lot of people that I work with that they've had this challenge of making it too hard, and I'll give you some examples. So last week there was one woman who asked me about a love interest, and she really wanted to go out with this guy that she knew from work, and she felt like he was interested, and she shared these things that he did to show he's interested, and she was all bubbly, but really questioning what to do because she didn't want to lose her job. She was afraid, of course, we're conditioned as women not to make the first move, and then she got a raise, she didn't want to lose her job, and the stakes were too high, and what if this and what if that? And I could tell, she was excited, but she was making herself nuts with all of the what ifs and all of the buts and all of the conflicting, like the desire bubbling up, but then the but pushing it down. And I was like, you got to take a risk, right? There's ways to do it that aren't too pushy, that aren't as risky, but sometimes that's what you got to do. And she was hoping for a sign. It's like, no, quit making it so hard. Quit butting on yourself. Live your desire. Thinking of another woman that I worked with, her problem was that her house was, bless her, her house had more rooms than her family needed. So that wasn't the problem. But here was the problem. She felt like she had no space, even though they had plenty of rooms in the house, plenty of space in the house, because her husband's stuff was occupying all of the rooms, right? And I could relate to that. That would be annoying. But here's what got to me. Here's what pissed me off. She wasn't doing anything about it, and years had gone by that this was a problem. And so what I said to her was, don't make it a problem for him, right? Because she had all these reasons, even though her desire was strong, her need was clearly there to have space for herself, to create space. The part of her that made it hard kept telling the story, well, he's too busy, he gets defensive when I bring it up, it's his stuff, he's providing for the family, etc., etc. And there's another way. I mean, it's not worth her life. Her life was not meant to be on hold for years. Her desire was not meant to be locked in, squashed for all that time. So I said, here's what I would suggest. Don't make it a problem for him, honor him, appreciate him, but go ahead and neatly take the things out of one room. Pick one room that you want to use for yourself, for your office, and take his things out of that room, put it in one of the other unused rooms, and let him know that you've needed to do that so you could have some office space and you didn't want to bother him, right? Hello. It's easier said than done. It's easy if it's not our issue, right? It's easy if it's not our husband. But I have seen this time and time again, and I learned it from my mother. I remember growing up, I would watch her as a kid if she had a problem, like let's say the water wasn't working, the power, shut off or whatever, and she needed a call about a problem. She needed to talk to a utility company. She would shake she couldn't bring herself to like just say, this is what I need, what can you do about it? She was so afraid to ask for her needs to be met, and it became this monumental problem when it really didn't need to be. So I certainly learned that. I had to unlearn it and learn something new, which I'll share with you later, what I do now instead when I catch it. And I still have my moments. I had another moment in the last couple of weeks where I was looking for a time to schedule a call. I give sometimes like free group calls, promotional calls, and I do this empowered living psychic lounge. I was looking for a time to schedule this call and was looking at the calendar of the range of dates that I wanted to do it and the times, and I was like, I don't know when I can do it because I don't know when I'm going to have a babysitter because preschool's out and our babysitter changed plans, and it was sort of all up in the air. And I can get anxious about these things because I find for me, when I have structure, woo, my creativity can flow, and I don't have to worry about the details or the form of it, and then I feel freer. So it is a thing for me. However, I didn't need to make it as hard as I was making it. And when I caught myself, I was like, and what you need to do, pick a date and time that feels good, that makes sense for you, and then go ahead and tell the universe that you need a babysitter and trust that it's going to happen, and take whatever action that you need to take to make it happen. But just go ahead and you decide. And it's the same thing I told the woman who needed space in her house. So we all have our triggers, we all have things that stress us out, and we all have things we've learned. I've noticed, unfortunately, that while I've worked over the last 12 years formally and even longer informally as an intuitive and as a healer, that a lot of people bring this energy of making it hard even to their healing process, even to their personal growth journey. And it's like we've all learned, maybe from school or the culture or whatnot, that if we can solve problems, if we can figure out complex problems and surmount our obstacles, we get a gold star and we succeed and we win and we're better, we're valid and we're worthy. And so so many times I've run into, across people that are, well-meaning and really, earnestly seeking and searching on a path of healing for themselves. And they make it so exhausting for themselves and everyone around them because everything gets overcomplicated. I want this, but I can't have it because if I want this, I have to do this, but I don't want to do this. And it makes us crazy, right? So it's like you might want a certain amount of money, but then you think, and I think my dad tells himself this, not that he's trying to earn more money, but because he's retired and his job was very demanding. Sometimes he'll say, Dad, why don't you work? You have a lot of time on your hands. You have a lot of energy. I think it'd be great for you to work a little bit, And he's like, oh no, I can't because working is too hard. Well, it was before in the career you did when I was growing up, yes, but it doesn't have to be. And I think sometimes people have a goal. Like, let's say you do want, millions of dollars, and great, you want millions of dollars, but then, and it may be subtle and it may be subconscious, not conscious, you might think, but if I have $1 million, or more dollars, people are going to want it from me. And how am I going to protect myself? And, am I going to get a guy if I'm richer than him? And what if, I figure out how to manage it? I don't know how to invest money. Right? And I'm doing that because that's what it feels like. And I think, we don't mean to sabotage ourselves, but on some subconscious level, we are trying to sabotage ourselves, and it makes me sad and it makes me mad because our lives are short. And if you're not going for your goals now, again, years can go by, right? So this part of us that wants to sabotage, I invite you to just, if this is resonating, to just get compassionate with that part of yourself and ask, what are you afraid of? Like, what are you really afraid of? Are you afraid of surpassing your loved ones and they won't love you anymore, or that they'll ridicule you or judge you, or that you'll be abandoned and alone? Or is it just a comfort level, and it's scary because it's unknown? I mean, that's normal. I have done several things, just so you know, that have been risky, haven't been safe. And I'm sure when I did these things, my parents were like, oh my God, what's she doing? And others might have gone, whoa, that's scary. But I knew in my bones that it was right. So one example is I got divorced. And I got divorced at a time where my biological clock was ticking, and yet my past husband didn't want to have a child. And so it was scary to be alone at that time in my life where who knows if I'm going to meet a suitable partner in the time frame that my body needed. And yet I knew I had to do it. I did it, met my current partner, and as soon as we opened the door to conceiving, we got pregnant the first month. So clearly that was meant to be, right? And I had to trust. Another time I remember along those same lines, I was ready to call in my partner, and I was living in an apartment, and I was very happy in the community and in the place and whatnot. And then I started to get this vision of a man that I would meet at a raw foods retreat in Arizona. I've told this story elsewhere, so I'm not going to go on about it, but just to say I packed up everything, put my things in storage, took what I could fit in my car, sublet my apartment, went on the road for 2.5 months. I met him at the raw foods retreat, but we didn't recognize each other, and it took another year. And both of us moving to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where we each separately lived for a year before we ended up really connecting. And you know, long story short, here we are 5 years later. So I had to go through my process. And here's what I want to say about that. Back to, you know, what I'll share I've learned to do. So I didn't learn how to make it simple. I learned to make it hard. That was my modeling. God bless my parents and my, you know, teachers and everybody. It's just a lot of us have been taught that way. So what I what I have more recently come to and adopt as my way when I catch myself, and it's more a habit now than not, fortunately, if I have a need or a desire and I don't know how to make it happen and it doesn't seem to be happening, I will just stop, again, breathe, feel the desire, and get clear on what it is. If you don't know what it is, it's easy to make it hard, right? Because you have to figure out what it is. So first, get quiet enough, get clear enough, get honest enough with yourself to know what it is that you would like to have. And then ask, what do I need to make this happen? What needs to happen so that I can have this desire? Sometimes it's totally obvious. It's just a simple action step you need to take, like call other babysitters, ask your friends for a reference, move his stuff and claim a room, whatever, you know, some of those stories I shared. Other times it's like my journey into the unknown to find a partner. Even though I had the vision of the raw foods retreat, I still had to go on the road and take a risk and not know exactly where and how this was going to happen. And it was a journey, and it was one of the most amazing times in my life. Do I want to have every year be like that? No. It's somewhat uncomfortable, but it's that asking. And I wasn't necessarily getting an immediate action step, but it was like asking the universe, please show me, please lead me, please direct me. And I was completely led, and it really wasn't that long, you know, a year to find him and then another 6 months to get pregnant. It wasn't really that long once I, you know, surrendered and got out of my way a little bit. So if you're making it hard, it can often be really fun. It's not always that uncomfortable. It sometimes is, you know, like my calling Apple technical support. It's sometimes like, oh, whoa, I'm so glad that was so easy, right? So I wish that for you. I really would love to see you have a really empowered life. And that's why I've switched sort of from calling myself a healer and focusing more on giving readings and working with people on that level, really into the Empowered Life program, the Empowered Living Psychic Lounge, and the things I'm doing, because really that's what I've been going for all along, is that empowered life for myself and then for you, you know, for anybody that comes across my path. If I can facilitate that, I will. Sometimes I tell truths that people don't want to hear, but I do my best to, you know, keep it light and keep it fun and, you know, validate you and really cheer you on along the way. So I want to say one more quick thing. Sometimes there is a pendulum, you know, when we have maybe the pattern, the old pattern where the pendulum has swung so far towards making it hard. Sometimes we react and we rebel, and the pendulum wants to swing the other way. And it swings into sort of carelessness of, it's not hard, it's all easy, it's free, I don't have to do anything, I don't, you know, it's just like, woohoo, like, and sometimes there is a lack of planning where there needs to be. Sometimes there is a thoughtlessness where you're not being kind to yourself or others in this process. Sometimes there's just living in la la land where you're not being real about what will it take to make something happen. And sometimes there are physical steps, and I'm certainly coming against that one now too, where my creative energy is way beyond my body, and that's been common for me, you know, and it's just like, it's part of living as a spirit in a body, and it's part of learning to live an empowered life is how to bring those together. So I would like to let you know, if this resonates with you, that one of the main ways I work with people is this program called Empowered Life. And we're opening the doors July 5th. It's a year-long program, so I have people that started in April. We open each season, and we cycle people in each season. So July 5th, the doors will open. You can go ahead and look now. It's already on my site. It's just the registration buttons aren't up yet, but I want to wet your whistle there. So go on AnnaBryanLiving.com, go under programs, you'll see Empowered Life, and check it out. It is a year-long journey so that no part of you is left out of your life. It's really about reclaiming all those parts of yourself that you've repressed, denied, ignored, all those desires you thought you couldn't fulfill, that you've made too hard, and having fun in the process. So we use creative exercises, writing and journaling, dancing, we play music, we share with partners and really hold space for each other. People will say, oh my God, it's so good to say these things out loud, because your friends and family aren't neutral, but you can share with the people in the class. We hold a really sacred space for you. We do meditation, we do energy clearing. There's time to ask your personal questions of me and get that I mean, it's in the group, but I will be laser focusing on Q&A calls. So there'll be time for you to ask your questions and get intuitive readings, mini readings on your questions, and receive healing and clearing. There's a Facebook group, and there's going to be a retreat this fall, which you will be invited to, and I have a special deal for you on that. So with that said, I think I'm complete for today. And I'm gonna go and take a little rest. I've been powered up all day. So thank you for being interested in living an empowered life. The world is a better place for it. And I hope to connect with you soon on AnnaBryanLiving.com. Have a beautiful day. Oh, and subscribe here if you like this video, or you can sign up on my site for a free meditation download right away and get a taste. Okay, bye.